Hey, it's Bailey O'Brien here, and today I want to talk to you about how our emotional and spiritual health impacts our physical health. Now, this is not something that I was a big believer in several years ago, but as I've done research, I've found just how important it is to have a healthy mental and emotional and spiritual state in order to protect our own health and prevent and heal from disease. And I found that in my research, many others believe that it's important as well, including when I went to the Truth About Cancer Ultimate Life Symposium last year in October. It's coming up again, by the way, just so you know. But of all the lectures that I went to, almost every single doctor or lecturer who I listened to stressed the importance of emotional and spiritual health. And this is not something that I would have expected. In my own journey, I didn't really believe that it was so important. I didn't address these areas very much. I was more focused on the physical things like my diet and detoxing and the complementary and alternative treatments that I was doing. But also in reading the book Radical Remission and reading about Dr. Kelly Turner's research, after she's interviewed over 1,000 patients and dozens and dozens of healers around the world, one of the 9 key factors that she found was common among radical remission survivors was that they deepened their spiritual connection. And so this was really surprising to me. I'm not sure if it surprises you, but it makes sense to me now. And I think because our beliefs impact our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions, and these all have physical implications. Like if you get really stressed out, maybe you clench your jaw, or you get stiffness in your neck, or you get back pain or a headache, and these are just short term. They can be short term or long term effects. So think about if you have chronic stress, how it could be impacting your body on a minute by minute basis, and added up over time, it could have a huge impact on your health. In reading this book called Cancer Step Outside the Box, there's a story of a doctor whose son tragically passed away unexpectedly, and this doctor developed testicular cancer, and his wife also developed breast cancer, and she ended up passing away. So what's the likelihood that these are by chance, that this tragic event happened and the parents weren't able to handle the situation very well, and it manifested in their bodies and unfortunately took the mother's life. This is kind of similar to my own cancer experience. Growing up as a kid, I didn't feel that I had a good handle on stress. I didn't respond to it very well. As early as my days in gymnastics. And then when I went to college and started my career as a student athlete, I was totally overwhelmed by stress. And my mom actually worried that I would make myself sick with stress. So she prayed asking God to give me a scare and to help me change my perspective and my outlook on life, and just to see that I really would be okay. And, she doesn't like when I tell this story, but not long after that, I got my cancer diagnosis. But I didn't I didn't change my attitudes or my thought patterns. And the cancer came back a couple years later. And again, I didn't address my my mental, emotional state. And 2 weeks after I finished my conventional treatments, I found out that I had terminal cancer. And even then, I did pray more. I prayed for a miracle, and people encouraged me to trust God and have faith, which I did more of, but it wasn't a big part of my healing regimen. It was only after I was healed from my cancer that I really wanted to think about spiritual things like God and if He were real. And I turned to God because I wanted to know the purpose of my life, and I felt if there were a purpose for my life, then there had to be someone who had created that purpose. Also, I was trying to live a good and happy life, and I just was failing at it miserably. After it wore off, the feeling of being on cloud nine after I was healed and just so thankful to be alive and experiencing all these incredible joyous emotions, I felt like life was basically the same as it had been before. And so I knew I needed to change my thought habits. I knew I needed to stay more positive, not let little things bother me so much, and not be so irritable, but I didn't know how to do that. And that only changed for me when I put my trust in Jesus as the payment for my sins, and let Him lead and direct my life, that things in my life began to change, and I just felt this peace and joy and hope. I had such hope, and that poured out into my relationships and has affected everything in my life since. But I sure am grateful for the experiences that I've had, for how my life has changed since trusting in God, and I wouldn't change anything about any of my experiences. I'm grateful for the cancer and how it's brought me to God. And so for you, I don't know where you're at spiritually, but I encourage you to seek out God, because He's so much more than I ever believed. And if you're interested, I have a link to an audio recording of my testimony of how I came to believe what I believed. If you're interested, I'll provide it below. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk soon.